Before the Game is about to get extremely royal. That's right, I said royal. 214 episodes in, and it's the first time we've ever had a king. This is big. It's a king.
Did you script that, or was that just off the top of your head
Off
right
top
now?
of my head. I just thought of that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Three Guys Before the Game. We are going royal. Our special guest is Mountaineer football player Brian King. Get it? King. One of the greats to play at WVU is on deck and coming our way. Three Guys Before the Game is brought to us by Burdett Camping Center, the only warranty forever RV dealer in all of West Virginia. Visit them at burdettcamping.com. You know, we buy a lot of stuff. Some stuff's got a 3-month warranty. Some's got a 6. Some's got a year. 5-year warranty. Oh, that's 5-year warranty. How about forever? Forever's long. And that's what they've got at Burdett Camping Center, located in Winfield. And right now they got the Three Guys Special, which is the 2020 Van Lee Beacon by Tiffin. It's a fifth wheel. 42 RDB's the model, and in essence what it says is this: you pull into any tailgating area with this bad boy, and people just, like, if they have a drink in their hand, solo cup, they got a solo cup in their hand, they're like having a little sip of something, they turn around, they see you pull in with that thing, they drop it. People got a big nacho, like wedge, like it's heading up the angle right toward it, boom, drop the nacho. Why? Because you just rolled in with the creme de la creme of recreational vehicles, and right now you can get $24,000 off that special at Burdett Camping Center. It goes for $141,400, $117,200, and this thing is loaded out like loaded out can be. More TVs than Best Buy. It's just 9 bathrooms in it or something.
Ballpark,
maybe not
at least. I don't know if is it actually more TVs than Best Buy or just in the ballpark.
It'd be worth if you go to the website, burdettcampingwv.com, burdettcamping.com. Just go in and take a look. I'm not sure. It might not have as many TVs as Burdett. 11 or 13 bathrooms, maybe 1 or 2 less. I don't know. Just check it out. It's the bomb when it comes to RVs. Plus, they've got so many different models and makes. Go to burdettcamping.com. We've been looking forward to this episode a ton. As you all know, we've asked you on occasion, who would you like to hear from? And we've had a lot of fun. We love doing these. Well, we love doing the show all the time, whether we're talking about a game, previewing a game, reviewing a game. We love doing that part of it. But when the summer comes and we spend time getting caught up with Mountaineers, we love it. And we've had a lot of fun. Mike Baker was an absolute hit. Got a lot of positive from that last week. Brian Joswiak before that. I got one for next week that I'm trying to work on that I think you'll really like. I haven't even told you yet.
Hold on here. Is this like the T-shirts where you're going to unveil this and it won't happen for another 4 months? So should you just maybe stop right there?
Maybe.
Okay. Which means you won't, which means you're going to continue on with the promo.
But
right
I do know this. We got something special for you, right? We got something special. Like Bill Stewart in the locker room before they went out and played Oklahoma. He said, I got you a good one, didn't I?
Got you a good one.
He said, I got you a good one, didn't I? Please welcome to the program, Mountaineer Brian King. Bye.
Tony and Brad, honored to be with you both.
It is good to hear your voice. You know you're one of our all-time favorites. You do know that, don't you?
And you guys as well. I'm just really excited to be on Three Guys Before the Game and see what we get into this episode.
Yeah, I was looking at some numbers here over the weekend. I don't want to make you feel old. 17 years have passed since you wore the old gold and blue. 17 years.
I know we say this every time. That sounds stupid.
Yeah,
It sounds stupid. It sounds stupid.
I had to do a little prep work to refresh my memory to, we're going back 17, more than 20 years if I go back to when I took my first unofficial visit to West Virginia.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to get into with you. You play for the Mountaineers 2000, 01, 02, 03. 03, your statistics explode, like at a crazy level explode. When I look back here, it's 6 interceptions as a senior, which is basically an interception every other game. That's a ton. And I got some other numbers for you that will probably make you feel old and make you feel good. Here's what so this is what I did. I haven't done this in the past, but I went back because I like to do the same thing you are, Brian, when you want to kind of remember. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read this. It's going to take a little while, but I'm going to read your bio, okay? Your WVU bio, and that was in the media guide going into your senior year. You ready? Okay. So this will put things in. You ready for this, Senator?
Yeah, I looked at it as well, but let's go.
Let's do it. I got to take a breath. Here we go. Veteran who can play either corner or free safety, proven playmaker, has become a leader on WVU's defense, ranks second in WVU career passes broken up, provides valuable experience to Mountain Deer's secondary, motivated defender, good speed and cover skills, shows plenty of awareness on the field. 79 tackles, 12 pass breakups for the 2002 season, 5 tackles against Tennessee Chattanooga, 3 solos and a pass breakup against Wisconsin, at Wisconsin. Started the Cincinnati game, 12 tackles, 2 pass breakups, 6 tackles against East Carolina. Suffered a deep thigh bruise on his right leg in the Maryland game. 9 tackles and a pass breakup against the Terps. 4 stops at Rutgers. Fractured his right thumb during the Syracuse game. Team high 14 tackles, 12 solo against the Orange. Did not play against Miami because of his hand was in a bulky cast. 3 solo stops at Temple. Intercepted a pass in the end zone, 10 tackles, 3 pass breakups against Boston College. Game-saving interception in the end zone of the Virginia Tech win. 12 tackles against the Hokies. 23-yard pick and 3 solos at Pitt. Received Ideal Mountaineer Man Award from the WVU coaches. Defensive champ, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, moved to the whip position after 2001's opener. 5 tackles, PBU and a sack, forced fumble, 7 tackles at Notre Dame. Won the early season starting job at short corner in 2000, 42 tackles on the year, 3rd-team freshman All-American from Sporting News. First start against BC, 3 solo stops, 2 pass breakups against BC, 7 tackles in the win against Maryland. Open field stop of Lamont Jordan for a 5-yard loss. 5 tackles, pass breakup against Miami. Interception, 4 tackles against Temple. 8 tackles, pass breakup against Idaho. Played 100 snaps. Played 100 snaps against the Vandals. Stripped Michael Vick of the football at the goal line to prevent a first-quarter Virginia Tech score. 3 tackles, PBU against the Hokies. 4 tackles, PBU against Notre Dame. Did not see varsity action in '99. Now high school. First-team All-State. This is Maryland. All Montgomery County, all Frederick, and all region at Damascus High. Second-team All-Metro by the Post. 43 receptions, wide receiver, for 875 yards, 9 touchdowns as a senior. Had 7 interceptions on defense. Team MVP at Damascus High for Coach Dan Makowski. Lettered in track as a sprinter. Born in 1980. One of 2 children. Younger brother Drew, reserve linebacker for the Mountaineers. Majored in athletic coaching education. Big East Academic All-Star. Athletic Director's Academic Honor Roll.
You know what's not used enough anymore that you read right there? You read a lot of stuff. You know what's not used enough?
What?
Gave you a short corner in there. Gave you the short corner. You don't say that anymore.
The boundary field, yeah. Hey, man, that just made me tired. What's that make you feel like?
That was a great intro. We should just stop right there.
So when I started hitting...
I won't tell you what I had to pay the individual who wrote that up for me.
Hey, man, those are just facts. I mean, those are just facts. When I just read all of those...
Very good memories.
Yeah. What goes through your mind? Like when I just hit a couple things like 23-yard interception and 3 solo stops at Pitt. Like, can you remember that pick?
I do, yeah. You're talking about the Pitt interception?
Yeah.
Gosh, I can remember. Yeah, every single thing that you read off just takes me back to a different place in time. But I got to make a comment on the career pass breakup leader. That's just because I couldn't catch.
No.
If I had caught a few of those, I could have had a couple pick sixes like my boy Pac-Man.
You could catch. You had 43 receptions and 9 touchdowns in high school. I mean, you could catch the ball. So
yeah. But if I could have taken down a few of those pass breakups, would have been competing with the interception leaders. But a lot of good fortune. For me, I feel blessed to have gone to West Virginia and be able to play so early. A guy coming out of high school who wasn't super highly recruited, it was just a blessing to go to West Virginia, and as the way things worked out, to be able to start as a freshman in 2000 is just a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, it's all about timing. Let's go back, and we're going to jump all over the place. Let's go back and talk about it. You were highly decorated as a high school player. I mean, that's good football where you are, and yet you were not highly recruited. When you look back, why do you think that was?
That's a great question. So I played at Damascus High School, which very, very good high school football, not to be confused with DeMatha Catholic High School, which my good friend Scott McBrien went to school. But for many, many years, I mean, Damascus is winning state titles and amongst the tops in the state. If I could answer that question, Tony, I'd probably be very, very wealthy, because I've often thought, like, I know my talents, and I know that somebody took a chance on me, and I know I want to talk about them later on in the podcast, but somebody took a chance on me, and if I could kind of figure out that recipe for what makes a good college player based on, you know, their high school intangibles, like I said, I'd be very, very rich. I don't know. I wasn't highly promoted coming out of high school. My coaches, there were just 2 or 3 guys before me that had Division I scholarships. So my coaches fielded all the calls and did all of those things that high school coaches do, but they really didn't promote me. It was really my dad who knew we had one crack at this. And I remember to this day him saying, you know, when the music stops, I want to make sure you have a chair waiting for you. And so I owe all of what I accomplished at West Virginia to my dad, who really believed in me before I believed in myself.
Mm-hmm. And
my junior year, I'll say this, Tony.
Sure.
I had good tape, but it wasn't D1 tape. I mean, I was a solid high school player. And then I think that off season, and then me believing, hey, I got a shot to play Division I football my senior year in high school, it really just exploded. In fact, I'll tell you, my dad and we had a pact after the first 5 or 6 games, because I wasn't highly recruited, whatever highlights we had to get it on tape and send it out. And so, you know, your senior year, that's the year you shine. So while you play 10 or 11 games your senior year of high school, after the first 5, it was like, all right, this is what we have. Let's get this out. Otherwise, you know, we might run out of time to try to land a scholarship.
Yeah, it's a great point. You mentioned your dad, and he was absolutely instrumental in you getting here, and obviously your entire life since that part. I want to get into, he has passed recently, and I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want to ask you first off, it sounds as though he was pretty tuned in to how the world worked and knew that you needed to get out there. You know, some folks don't get it, and all of a sudden game 6 of your senior season's gone, and 7 and 8, and you don't do the work, and you could get lost in the shuffle. How was he tuned in? How did he know what to do?
That's a great question. So some of your listeners might remember a player at Penn State. He was a quarterback. His name is Kevin Thompson. And Kevin Thompson graduated from Damascus High School. He was probably, so when I was a freshman at Damascus, he would have been a true freshman at Penn State. And my father was a retired police, I guess he was still working at the time, but police officer, and Kevin's father was a police officer. And Kevin's dad really kind of educated my dad on what all had to be done in the sense of urgency. So it was my dad in the stands filming all the games. And then when it came to the highlight tape and addresses to all the schools that we thought I might have a chance to play at, it was my dad just firing out all that film to all those schools, just trying to see if we could get some interest.
Wow.
Think about how much harder that process was.
Uncomfortable for me. Yeah, Brad. I mean, it was uncomfortable for me midway through high school, because I think I said this. My dad believed in me before I believed in myself, to the point where I felt uncomfortable at times. And, now that I'm a father myself with 2 young boys, like, I see that love now that my dad had then, and the belief he had in me that I could play big-time college football. My mom tells the story. I don't know what year it was. It was probably my junior or senior year, and the pride of West Virginia is on the field, and we're getting ready to run out. And she looked over at my dad, and he just had tears in his eyes with the excitement. And it just, like, to me, that made it all, that's it for me. Like, I did it. Like, no matter what accomplishments came after that for me to hear that makes it all worth it.
Because think about the process there. Right now, Brian, you could get instant feedback, and you would be getting it before your senior year. You'd go through the camp process, and that would be pushed out on social media. You would have already been hearing from people. But as you're mentioning there, you're trying to accumulate that stuff in the first 5 games, but you're not necessarily getting feedback after week 1, I would assume. You're putting that together, you're pushing it out, and then the feedback comes over days or weeks before schools like West Virginia got in contact with you.
That's exactly right. And I mean, it was probably my father's friend, Mr. Thompson, Kevin's father, who said, "Hey, Steve, I would advise you," that's my dad, Steve, he said, "don't wait till the end of Brian's senior year. It might be too late. Get what you can get on film, get it out after week 5 or week 6. And, of course, a lot of pressure to perform those first 5 or 6 games. I can remember maybe my dad thinking that I should have some more highlights or bigger plays, and of course I'm doing the best I can, but I'll never forget coming home. Maybe this would be late September, early October, my senior year in high school, and there was a voicemail on my parents' answering machine, and it was Jerry Holmes. Your older listeners will remember that name. And that's how he offered me West Virginia offered me a scholarship. He left a voicemail on my parents' answering machine saying that West Virginia would like to offer me a scholarship.
Wow. Holy heck.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go back 3 steps.
So that was 98. That would have been fall of 98, Brian?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So what contact, if any, had West Virginia had prior to that?
Little to none. The timeline for me is a little foggy. I can't remember, and I'm going to bounce around a little bit. I took an unofficial visit to Morgantown to watch Miami play the Mountaineers in October of 98. And I can't remember if I had been offered then or not. I want to say I had not been offered yet. But going back to the 3 people responsible for me landing at West Virginia, obviously my dad was number 1, but 2A and 2B were Donnie Young and Jerry Holmes. Donnie Young was the recruiting coordinator in 1998, and I'm sure passed my film along to Jerry Holmes, who was the cornerbacks coach at West Virginia in 1998.
Mm-hmm. And that's how it happened. That's how
it happened. In fact, I have a theory. I can't prove this, Tony and Brad, but and this is no knock on the defensive backs before me, but I wasn't a big guy. You guys know that, so I had to make up for that with speed, and I enjoyed hitting. So my theory is a week or 2 before Jerry saw my highlight tape, he must have just been so frustrated with his guys either not hitting or, missing tackles. He said, well, I don't know if this guy can play, but he'll hit, so let's give him a scholarship.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everyone has to do their thing. Jerry was good, man. Jerry was a good coach.
But you never got to play for Jerry, right? Because you sat 90, you redshirted in 99, and you never played for him.
Yeah.
I was very excited for the opportunity to play for Coach Holmes. got along with him very well. My dad enjoyed talking with Coach Holmes, and it was a day or two after signing day that he announced he was going to coach for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. Did you have, by the time it was all done, Brian, did you have other Power 5 offers that senior year? Where was your plate of selection?
That's funny. So we blasted out a ton of highlight tapes to Division I schools. And I can remember Vanderbilt taking a very high interest in me, and they had me down for an official visit. And I don't know that I just wasn't feeling it or what the circumstances were, but I just didn't. That's not where I wanted to go play football. I can remember Mark Dantonio, the former Michigan State head coach, and at the time he was a assistant for Michigan State. I remember him coming down to Damascus, and he came to my parents' house and kind of teetering, like right there, but they just couldn't make the offer. But he had a lot of connections within a lot of the MAC schools and basically said, I can get you into any MAC school you want to go to. So, I mean, it wasn't – I didn't have 5, 6 – I didn't have, 2 or 3 Division I offers when it came down to it. So it's just amazing how things happen for a reason. And I was meant to be offered by West Virginia and spend the next 5 years in Morgantown.
And that's, to me, that's the most fascinating stories that people have. Think about this, folks. So he's on the cusp, right? He's on the cusp of, is he a Power 5 guy? Dantonio says, I can get you into the MAC. Doesn't settle.
Yep.
Doesn't settle. And Vanderbilt, not feeling it, but you didn't have 13 offers, right? And there's, the line, beggars can't be choosers, but you held off there. You come to West Virginia, and you put together a career that everyone would love. They'd take it right now. Like if you came in and said, how'd you like to have this career? Here's what you're going to do. People would go like, okay, I'll sign up for that. You made iconic plays in the history of Mountaineer football. Iconic plays that will never be forgotten in the history of Mountaineer football. Pitt, Virginia Tech,
yep.
They go down. They'll never be forgotten. And here's a guy that had to basically market himself just to get a chance. That, to me, is – and then you have kids, conversely, that from 7th grade on, this kid's high Power 5, that, and they come in here and they're –
But Brian's story is prototypical West Virginia. That's how the thing was built with his story. So, all right, take us back here. So Tony makes a great point there that you went on to be so highly productive and a guy that 20 years later when we say, hey, Brian King's going to be on, you're instantly remembered. So you didn't just come here and play for 4 years. You're remembered for decades after. When you sit for 99 and then ultimately start in 2000, because you played right away, you were in the lineup immediately when you got off your redshirt year. When you arrived in 99 and you start practicing, did you look around and go, uh-oh, I may not be ready for this? Or did you come in and say, all right, let's go. Give me the pads here. I'm ready to play. I can fit right in here.
I think I came in and you see a guy like Jerry Porter who's just, 6'3", 225, just bulging biceps and everything else. A lot of big guys. Anthony Beck. Like that's when I came in. Those were the studs.
Yeah.
And so I needed that 99 year to redshirt. I mean, I was the definition of a guy who needed to redshirt. I needed to lift weights. I needed to get stronger. And on top of that, I'm a very cerebral type player. It took that first year to watch and learn what it meant to be a college Division I football player, how they practice. I mean, I can't tell you all the little tricks and tips I picked up just from watching the starters doing one-on-ones in practice. I think, Pac-Man came in and played right away. Just a different MO. I mean, that's a guy who was just put him in and watch him go. I needed the redshirt. I needed to get bigger and stronger. But it didn't take long for me to realize that I was going to really – and then I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I knew the spring was going to be good for me. I knew spring football was where I was going to really be able to show, hey, you guys made a good choice giving me a scholarship, and I'm going to have a good spring campaign. I'm going to be here all summer working out, and I'm going to be ready to compete in that fall of the 2000 season.
When you went out there and finally got it on in spring ball, after you had a chance to spend considerable time in that redshirt season of working out and getting your new muscles and getting your new strength, probably got your speed going, did you have a moment in spring ball on any particular drill or in a scrimmage situation where you made a play that made people go like, whoa, and you went like, yep, I can do this? Did you have a moment?
One play doesn't really stand out to me. I'm sure maybe some of the coaches of that time, like Coach Dunlap or Coach Lockwood, he was the cornerbacks coach in 2000. They maybe saw something that spring. I just know I competed my butt off every play. I mean, it was the most important thing in my life was to compete, and I was prepared. I watched a ton of film. I was stronger, and I just had the confidence to start going up against the ones, the Corey Ivies, start competing, making plays. And it was the spring that I think showed the coaches, hey, this guy can play. If need be, I feel comfortable going with him on day one against Boston College.
Yeah. How much communication at that time did you have with your dad? Like, for example, during spring ball, would it be an every night call? And you're like, Dad, okay, here's what's going on. I would imagine he would be like, totally like, give me the deal. What's going on? Did you have that?
Yeah. If he had it his way, it'd be an every night phone call. As close as we were,
yeah.
I think that would have been too much for me. So no, Cody, it wasn't an every night call, but he was very tuned in to your reporting and, Kevin Kinder and Greg Hunter. It was all that he digested was West Virginia football.
Yeah.
But very proud moment for my dad, obviously, to know that he was the reason why I landed at West Virginia. And here we are after a redshirt season starting against Boston College, and I'll never forget they had a wide receiver who was a very speedy guy named Diedrich DeWalt. Do you remember that name?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yep, and that's who I was matched up against, and fared okay that game, and the rest is history.
Fared okay. He only had 2 for 28 in that game. Did Diedrich DeWalt? So you did all right.
Hey, that was Mike. Yep. That was when Mike Cloud was running around, right?
William Green.
It was William Green era. That was William Green era. Okay.
Hasselback, Tim Hasselback, the quarterback.
Brothers.
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah.
Yep. Tim.
Yeah. So let's do this. I left you a text message, asked you to come on a couple weeks ago, and it took you a while to get back. And Brad and I went like, Brian hasn't gotten back to me yet. And he goes, that's weird. And then you did. And you struggled to do this because as we've been talking about your dad and the role that he played, and he's passed away about a year ago. So take us into that world that when you think back here, everything centers around your dad, doesn't it? And it's difficult for you. And you're doing a great job, but it's difficult for you.
It is. And as your listeners know up to this point, I've mentioned my dad a lot. My dad is the reason I ended up in Morgantown. And lost my dad 13 months ago. And I think I struggled with the idea of just stirring up all those old feelings from, 1998 to 2003, my senior year at West Virginia. And so many memorable and positive experiences, and they all revolve around my dad being right there and my dad being the reason I ended up in Morgantown. And I just, those 5 years for my family, not just for me, but for my mom and dad and my younger brother, Drew, they were the best 5 years of my family's life. Now my wife jokes and says, "Hey, wait a minute," but just from terms of football and where I kind of feel like I established myself, it was that. And so, yeah, I apologize to you once we finally connected, but I think you soon understood why I was struggling with accepting your invitation. And then when you told me that my name had kept popping up from people who wanted to hear from me, what an honor. I mean, I couldn't be more thrilled. And then I thought about my dad again, saying if he were around today, he'd say, "Brian, you're crazy. Call Tony and go on this podcast. This is great. You should be honored that they even want to talk to you." So very, very thrilled that I'm able to do this. And it does. It feels good talking about my dad.
Brian, as you look back too, I would assume that's one of the, you talk about those choices, Vanderbilt or West Virginia. The proximity from Maryland to West Virginia had to be a big selling point at the time. But now as you look back, that had to be really special because much like you endure, I can picture your dad as if he were standing here right now. I remember exactly what he looked like. I remember talking to him seemingly around every game. Just having them around and the proximity to your hometown had to be just a great memory for you and a great selling point to getting you here in the first place.
Yeah, it's one of those things where at the time you don't realize that distance, 2.5 3 hours from Damascus to Morgantown, how huge that was. I mean, I could pop home if it was a slow weekend in the off season. Of course, my parents could come to every home game and not even think twice about it. I remember my freshman year, they started going to all the away games, and I remember asking my mom and dad, like, "You guys really going to be able to keep this up?" And we just want to go to every venue at least once. Well, that shortly became to every single game for 4 straight years. They didn't miss a game.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's funny how things happen for a reason. That distance from home was huge.
You had an interesting situation that some go through during their careers, but not everyone, and that is a coaching change. You mentioned Jerry Holmes recruited you but wasn't around to coach you. The head coach also changed. I'd love to get your insight into the transition from Coach Nealon to Rich Rod, because from afar, or not all that far away, it would seem as though it went from one style to another style, and there was nothing in the middle. It was completely different. What are your memories of that?
I was very fond of Coach Nealon. I enjoyed playing for him the 2 years, of course, my redshirt year, and then my freshman year. Of course, just the history. I mean, he was one of those Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno, just a guy who had been at the program forever, so very well admired and respected. And then that transition, I think Coach Nealon announced his retirement midway through that 2000 season. And so it was known that last half of the football season that it was going to be his last year coaching. And, of course, when Coach Rod came in 2001, he definitely switched some things up and, as he says, brought a very hard edge to the program. I love Coach Rod. I'll never forget this, and I use it today when I explain to my wife about our boys' behavior. Like Coach Rod always says, I'd much rather say sick 'em than hold back.
Yep.
And or no, it was the opposite of that. I'd much rather say
hold back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what Coach Rod said. And so are my boys. My boys are 3 and 5, and when they
I'm sorry to
get
interrupt.
a little bit rowdy, I said to my wife, "Hey, I'd much rather say whoa than sick 'em."
How about this one? I bet you heard this one too. If you let me see. It was the hunting dog one. If you ain't got a hunt, it's like, what the heck was it? You know if you got a hunting dog or not. That's in essence what it is. I blew the whole thing there, but you just know. And so let me ask you this about your 2 boys. What are their ages?
They are 3 and 5. They both just had birthdays in April and June, so a lot of fun. They keep us busy. Just so much fun. I can't tell yet who the athlete is of the two of them. Ironically, it's my 3-year-old has a little better hand-eye coordination at this point than my 5-year-old, so he might be the one, but we'll see.
Well, but the 5-year-old might watch tape and learn those. Here's what it is. If you ain't got no hunting dog, if you got to teach a hunting dog how to hunt, then you ain't got no hunting dog. Finally. If you got to teach a hunting dog how to hunt, then you ain't got no hunting dog.
You ain't got no hunting dog.
That's the same thing, right? Yeah. I mean, if you got to teach him to...
That's the same thing.
Same difference. Yeah, I think that might have been more of a Rick Trickett.
When Coach Rod said that, I said, you know what, that resonates with me big time. I like that.
What was that? I remember that spring, or his first spring. So you play the Music City Bowl, Coach Nealon's last game. Then you come out for spring ball. And obviously those guys go out onto the field, and they want to say, hey, that's a new attitude. It's a new culture. We're going to get it. How big of a culture change was that?
It was huge shock. In fact, I'll come even earlier than that. I remember being in the indoor facility practicing for the bowl game, the Music City Bowl. And at that point, it was already announced, maybe. So that would have been December.
Right.
I guess it was announced that Coach Rod was going to be the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in the indoor building watching our practices. So for a lot of us, we were almost... That was an early audition then. Of course, he didn't know names and numbers, but yeah, I can remember seeing him in the indoor building saying, well, let's show him what we got, boys. But yeah, that spring, I mean, he's coming in, he's trying to change the culture a little bit, or a lot of bit, and really create that mindset of playing with a hard edge and sprinting on, sprinting off the field, not stopping, to the whistle. I feel very fortunate to have played for Coach Rod. In 2001, we didn't have the success his first year. I think we went 3-8, but that 2002 and 2003 season, we went 9-4 and 8-5 respectively. And I just really feel like that laid the foundation. And I'm very proud of those years because that pretty much laid the foundation for that team, the team's success between the 2004 and 2007 season.
We'll come back here.
Long after I was gone.
Brian, we'll come back to 2002, 2003 because I want to talk about that because I think you're exactly right about laying foundation. But go back to that bowl game against Ole Miss for a second because Tony, I think that's one we probably don't give that enough due. Mm-hmm. For one, everything that was going on in terms of the chaos. Coach Nealon and that staff on its way out, Rich on the way in, trying to get Coach Nealon a win in his final game, trying to get Coach Nealon a bowl win. Remember how that was such a big topic, is trying to get that. And then you're facing Eli Manning, who comes into the game. We didn't know Eli would turn out to be what he is, but he came onto the game, and Ole Miss was coming hard at the end of that game. Just kind of put all that in a package. What do you remember about that? Other than Rich standing there watching you prepare, walk us through that Ole Miss game, that Music City Bowl, what you remember about that time late in your freshman year there.
It's funny. I was just prepping for this. I was looking at some old video, and I remember Tony nicknaming Wes Hours the Wes Express. You remember when he caught that ball down the sideline?
Oh, yeah, right up the sideline.
Rumbling and bumbling. Yeah. So it brought back a lot of memories. A very special time to be able to send Coach Nealon out with a win. I know that they I can't remember it as well as I remember a lot of other games, but as you said, like, they were making a charge towards the end of that game and coming back, and it was nice to hold them off and send Coach Nealon out with a win.
Yeah.
Because if I wouldn't have been in the athletic department at the time, I would have, and sports betting was legal, I would have bet every dollar I had plus all future earnings that West Virginia wasn't going to win that game.
Totally agree. Because, and not against you guys, but the coaches knew that they were done. And they had no idea what their next jobs were. And they're spending time on the phone trying to find out where they're going to work next. I thought if there was ever a recipe for a team going out there and just being done, it was that West Virginia team. And instead, it went the other way.
Which makes the staff and the players' effort in that game, again, I don't think we give it enough credit for your jobs on the line, your last 20 years, you're having to change positions, and you go out and could get ready to play a game, and you guys got ready. I think that's a remarkable achievement that we don't talk about enough.
I agree. And I also think, Brian, Go right ahead.
Well, I was just going to say I was a young guy, so still kind of absorbing what it was like to play a full season in college football. But, yeah, I think it's a real testament to the coaches and the older players to kind of keep us all together and get that win.
Yeah. Antonio Brown is still running across the field. I mean, running those crossing routes. They remember that? They stayed in man coverage, and he just kept hitting those crosses, hitting them crosses. You said something a moment ago, and you're exactly right, that you and the guys on those teams in the early couple of seasons for Rich, you were the foundation. You were the bedrock of the success that WVU had under Rich and continues to this day. So that is one of the things I think why fans are so in tune to you and your guys, because you guys laid the benchmark and went through the cultural change. And let's face it, the Pitt and the Virginia Tech games, as you well know, are super special games. You made a couple of plays in those games, and based on what you said a few moments ago, you were extremely cerebral. I'd love to get your insight and take on a couple of those picks. It was watching tape, wasn't it? It was knowing before it happened, I'm assuming?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of cliche, but every player has to do their job. And that Tech pick at the end of the game, I guess that would have been 2002, right, at Lane Stadium?
Mm-hmm.
It's just knowing what your responsibilities are. And then I did that later in my career. I could get away with things that I would have never thought to do early in my career, which is leave a little bit of a cushion for the receiver, let the quarterback think there maybe is a window there when there's not. And most notably, that interception at the end of the Virginia Tech game, that's exactly what I did. I just fell back a little bit on the receiver I was covering and let that quarterback think he could squeeze it in there, and stepped in front, took a knee, and what a special memory that was to be able to pretty much end the game with an interception.
That's one of my favorite all-time memories. You know?
That night or that pick? Or both?
Yes.
Yeah, all of it.
Yes.
I mean, think about that. That's because that's the Wiley over-the-line game, too. I mean, think of the icon. I mean, those two plays, that Brian's pick and Wiley over the line, are two of the most iconic plays in history. They happen on the same night.
Yeah, it is. Isn't that true?
I can remember busing, for whatever reason, from Morgantown to Lane Stadium, we bussed.
Right.
And it was a long bus ride. And I can remember sitting next to Lance Frazier and some of the other guys, Grant, and saying, hey, if we win, it'll all be, it'll be the best bus ride home we could ever remember. And that's exactly what happened. Because that was every bit of, 5 hours to bus to Blacksburg from Morgantown.
I'm still amazed. We're on the video stream. If you're watching it, we're watching the highlights right now of that particular game. I'm still amazed. I know it's almost 20 years ago. It's like we're playing in the backyard and you're using your deck floodlight there. Why couldn't Tech have lights? I'm surprised Brian could see the ball coming in there. It's so dark.
It's before halogen. That was before halogen lights.
Get some lights down there,
You also notice the game's in 4:3 ratio. That's before HD too.
I know that, but I can hardly see it. It's dark.
Hey, I want to ask you about this here. You mentioned your
one second. Also, as we're watching the clip,
sure.
That's also classic early Rich, not celebrating the Brian pick, screaming at everybody,
yelling at somebody.
Didn't want a penalty coming.
Yeah,
get back.
Hey, how about I'm just jumping around here. How about Grant Wiley? His body hasn't changed since he played here, huh? You seen him lately, right? Brian?
He's thin and trim is what I hear.
Thin and trim? He weighs like 126. Isn't that what he is, Brad? 126 or 120, 126, 127. And he's totally different, Brian. Have you talked to him at all?
I haven't talked to Grant. I keep in touch with some of the guys, but I haven't talked to Grant. I mean, but Grant's one of those guys we could talk tomorrow.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just be like picking up right where we left off.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's fun. I mean, he makes us laugh because he's so different from what he was. I mean, he was just he met self-acknowledged meathead who would grunt, and now like you talk to him, it's like, Grant, what's up? Well, I don't know, man. You know, like esoterically, I just think that the way that the stars are aligned now.
Grant was always the last one out of the weight room. You know, first one to arrive, last one out. Just took it so serious. And,
yeah, exactly.
I'm happy he's doing well.
So, when did you meet your wife?
I actually met my wife in Morgantown. Probably my junior year. You guys will remember Mark Fazzolari, our punter.
Yeah, absolutely.
He actually was dating. Yeah, he was dating a girl at the time who was my now wife's roommate in college.
Okay.
So Mark's girlfriend and my wife Lindsay were roommates, and Faz kind of did the. I think Lindsay, you might like this guy BK, and as it would go. Lindsay and I never dated in college, which I joke is probably a good thing because I probably would have screwed it up.
Yeah.
But I know college is where we met, and we had enough mutual respect for each other that we always stayed in touch. Up through, 08, 09, we stayed in touch. She moved out to California, and I think right around that 08, 09 recession, she moved back to the East Coast, and we reconnected and married in 2012.
Fantastic. So she's a Mountaineer. She's a WVU grad too.
She's a WVU grad. Never stepped foot in the stadium, which we joke about. But she's a WVU grad.
Excuse me. The line may have broken up there. It sounded the line may have crackled. It sounded like you just said that she was a student here, but she had never put her foot into the football stadium. Did I hear that right?
You heard it right. Yeah, she wasn't a big football fan, which is just kind of goes to show her. She liked me for me. She didn't need any of the interceptions and pass breakups and all that.
Yeah.
She just right?
She said, "Hey, Brian, I don't care if you're short corner, whip, boundary corner, doesn't matter to me." Now you said
doesn't matter to me. Who cares?
She makes reference to your inflated neck. We've been showing this still photo of you on there. So she now.
You don't look like that now.
You don't look like that.
You're not in there doing neck raises.
No.
You don't have the neck.
None of that. She would call that steak neck. And I can remember those neck exercises we would do with towels in college with a partner. Oh, it was just crazy because that's pretty much the foundation of all the hitting and everything else. But yeah, we joke about that a lot. But I don't look anything like I looked like in college. I'm still, I'm 6 foot, 155, and enjoy running and biking. But my days of lifting weights are long gone.
Wait a second. They listed you at 1. Did you play at 185?
No, that was inflated. Inflated by a few pounds. I don't think I ever got up over 180. I was always high 170s. Maybe 180, 181. I don't think I ever touched 185.
They've just changed your picture. The video stream, they've just updated your picture to what you look like now. Can you put that back up? So let's break them down. So, yeah, the neck is gone.
Hair's a little shorter.
Hair's a little short. You still have nice hair. I mean, a lot of guys your age, it's gone by now.
Thanks, Tony.
I appreciate that. And so you're 155 at 6 foot. So you are lithe and lean, and I bet you look pretty good.
Well, we joke. I'm very comfortable now. It was always a struggle to gain weight. I had a high metabolism. Everything I ate, I was burning. I couldn't. Scott McBrien and Scott was my roommate my freshman year. And I remember Al giving us, the strength coach.
Al Johnson,
Al Johnson giving us Gator Pro, and they just loading us up. We didn't have any room in our refrigerators in our dorm room just because they were giving us so much protein shakes because we just couldn't gain weight.
See, we've graduated there. A couple weeks ago, we had Brian Joswiak on back in the 80s just pounding raw eggs like he was Rocky. Now we evolved.
You're right.
We've got protein powder and protein shakes that BK was having.
Yeah, we had a guy on that played on the 84 team, consensus All-American Brian Joswiak, who's also a Maryland guy. He would drink 12 egg whites 3 times a week in the summer. Raw. Just pound them. Just put them in a pitcher and just pound them.
So you weren't doing that?
No, he had Gator Pro.
It was we joked, but it was probably I didn't enjoy that, having to always feel like I had to put on weight. It took the joy out of eating, for sure. If you're eating for bulk, and I just couldn't bulk up. My mom always joked, you can't put meat on a racehorse. And I was a racehorse. I wasn't a guy who could beef up.
Well, where are we now? You said lifting weights is in the rearview mirror.
He bikes
we got any
now.
Yoga, running? What are we doing?
Bikes. He's a biker.
Yeah, bike, low impact, running. I enjoy running. Now my son is into riding his bike, so we get out there. And it's just all about staying healthy, mental health, and trying to stay in shape as best I can.
You stretching?
For sure.
You got to be stretching here because you're closing in on 40. You can pop a hammy there just doing random daily stuff.
He needs to stretch. You need to stretch. What are you doing for stretching?
I need to be better about stretching.
Yeah. Brian, you need to stretch.
I'm staying tight as we talk.
Yep.
See, you can't do that, dude. Listen, we've got your number now. We're going to text you this dude that we're very strong believers in. He's a video guy, YouTube yoga guy. You're going to like him. He's none of this moon and stars and swami, bomby, mommy. It's
just get in there and stretch.
Yeah. I got to give a shout out to my boy Johnny McAllister. He was a assistant strength coach at West Virginia, and I know he'll be listening to this, and he'll just be rolling his eyes hearing how tight I am because stretching was so pressed upon us, before and after every workout.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you straight. We'll take care of it for you. Hey, I know you got to run, but I want to ask you one last thing. Give folks an idea as to your world of work now. So you're a commercial real estate guy in the Northern Virginia, D.C. area, correct?
That's correct. I have a long-time mentor and very close family friend, Alfie Riley, who actually went to West Virginia 1975 and 1976 to play for Coach Bobby Bowden. Long-time family friend, and he actually, when I stopped playing, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, he took me under his wings and showed me the ropes of everything commercial real estate and appraising. So I've been with Alfie since 2005, which is a long time for anybody at one job, as young as I was out of college. And so I appraised commercial real estate, recently purchased a 4-unit building in Washington, D.C. So I'm dipping my toes into what it feels like to be an investor and enjoying that very much.
Awesome. That's what it's about, man. That's what it's about. You make yourself a productive citizen. Here's a guy that wanted to play football, and it was a family affair, and he comes in here and has this memorable career, and now you're out there and you got kids, and you married a WVU grad who never stepped into the football stadium, which I like even more as part of the story. I like that even more. And you're working, and that's the thing, man. Oftentimes college sports, you hear the negative oftentimes, and you hear about this and that. There's so many of yous out there. We had Mike Baker on our last show, and he's kicking it out there as well. You got all these guys, Brian Joswiak, teaching, coaching. It's a great system. It does work. Mm-hmm. It does work. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I look forward to getting into coaching myself when my boys get a little bit older. But as far as playing, I left it all out on the field, and I've always been, turkey bowls around Thanksgiving and people getting together. I've never been interested in any of that post Morgantown because I just left it all out on the field, and I'm very happy with how my years at WVU went.
Yeah. Recipient of the Ira Rogers Award, recipient of the Ideal Mountaineer Award. Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer. King Man, thank you so very, very much for joining us. We appreciate it. And let When those kids get a little bit older, you'll come over here on some Saturday and watch the world champion Mountaineers. You make sure you look us up.
Absolutely. Tony and Brad, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
All right, brother. Be good, man. See you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, see you, BK.
There he is, Brian King. How many good stories there?
A bunch.
Huh? How many good stories?
Well, and I think like we said in the very beginning, we actually started with it. Usually we end with it. The exact story that this program was built upon, right? I mean, there's a million of those, but it's exactly that story. Under-recruited, no one else really interested. He shows up, he busts his butt, he gets bigger, he gets in the weight room, turns into a guy that's ultra-productive, and we're still talking about 20 years later.
100% agree. And that's why, and I've said this before, that is the quintessential diagram equation of how West Virginia's been successful, right? And now I'm going to go 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps further. It also is one of the great untold national stories because WVU is in the top 20 all time in football victories and in basketball, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you're a state of 1.8 million people. So you have had to do it that way because you just don't have players just falling over themselves in your state to get. So in essence, you have to get probably 80% or more of your kids from a place that already has a school in their home state and bring them in here. It's hard. It's good. It's a good job. It's a hard job. And you have to, you mentioned Donnie Young. Donnie Young and the guys that were able to bring in kids and identify talent. And we could build a huge list, right? They had a system. They were able to identify, develop, productive, and win.
And then there's the develop part of that, right? And some of that's got to be within the guy. I mean, if Brian doesn't have that within him, if Anthony Beck doesn't have that within him, they don't develop into what they became. But man, that's the story. You show up and you become so much better when you leave than when you got here. And King was one of those guys, right? No matter what position it was, started right from the very beginning as we outlined and ended up with just a fabulous career over 2 different coaches. I mean, think about that, adapting to 2 totally different styles and 2 different coaching staffs and still very successful.
Yeah. Ready for some texts?
Mm-hmm.
Bobby from Virginia.
Hello!
I just finished listening to the Mike Baker 3 Guys and loved it. I was a student, sophomore in 93, and would frequent the Morgantown establishments. We would see Baker and the guys out after games, and it was always not a big deal. They were always respectful and just felt like they were one of us. I know we live in a different time now, but I always remember that year as one of the best years of my life. That 93 team will always have a place in my heart of Mountaineer Nation. My daughter just graduated from high school and will enter West Virginia in the Honors College this fall. I tell her stories from that year and say it will never be duplicated because the times we live in now are so different. The team in Baker has a personal connection to the fan base. Love the show. Let's go Mountaineers. Trust the climb.
2 things on Baker along those lines. I'm surprised at how many people I've heard from that say, hey, you know who my favorite Mountaineer was growing up? And it was Mike Baker. So that's been eye-opening to me. And 2, to back up what we just said, that whole discussion we just had applies to Baker as well. Right?
Absolutely.
A Prop 48 guy. People peeled away from him. Now, he was different in that he was highly recruited, but a bunch of people peeled off because he didn't get the test scores to be able to get in, right? West Virginia stays with him. He turns into a super ultra-productive guy, goes on to play years in the Arena Football League, catches 500-plus balls. He's another example with a little bit different route.
As you know, during the regular season phone calls, the voice calls, I'll edit those out to take away the ums, the ands, the his. I'm going to do one right now. I haven't listened to it.
Okay, so there's no editing in this. It's just straight.
0 editing and
raw sound, as they sometimes say.
Raw audio. I'm trusting it because it says it's from Long Bob in Pennsylvania. So here we go. Let's listen to the guy who identifies himself as Long Bob Can we play that message? Can we get that message? Okay, here it is. Let's play the message, Long Bob. Let's do it.
Hey, Tony, Long Bob here. Not for three guys necessarily, but, man, that Joswiak, I don't know if you caught the reference of Andre Gist and Mark Howe, and I don't know if you know the story of that, but, boy, that broke that was something to be a student down there. Everybody, was shocked when that incident happened, but I don't know. You know the story probably, and just you guys keep doing all the great stuff you're doing. You take care. Bye.
All right, there you go. That was not the message that I saw because I see the transcript of it. But he was referring to the car accident that Mountaineer players were involved in and claimed the life of Andre Gist. And Mark Howe was also involved in that wreck. And there's no question about that. That was a horrible, horrible time. Okay, let's do some more messages. And guys, just listen to the Mike Baker podcast. Obviously, he was one of your favorites. After that episode, he is now one of my favorites too. Great stuff. This person just winging one in here. I fail to see the benefit of West Virginia if Lyons leaves to become the commissioner of the ACC. He's jumping off topic here. Shane Lyons, we talked about potential.
What's he saying there? Doesn't see why Shane would
benefit. He said the 16th football slot will always be left open for Notre Dame.
Oh, for WVU joining the ACC. Saying,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one thing. Quite frankly, I wish we would have asked Brian about that because I'm interested in these older guys that played through the Big East. What they think now when they see West Virginia in the Big 12. Is it a little bit odd for them because you're not watching teams that you played against? Meant to ask him that. We'll have to have him back.
Mm-hmm.
Get him on Sportsline when I don't want to ask him.
Yeah, solid point. At Jim in Bridgeport, any chance you guys could get Mike Barwis or Dan Moses on Three Guys?
Both would be excellent.
Both would be. I think that's possible. Yeah. I wouldn't want Barwis to come on. It might make his voice raspy. If he talks too long, his voice might be.
Talk about one of the all-time great characters.
You know what?
Barwis would be. Both those guys would be great.
We do need to.
We got to get Barwis.
We do need to get Barwis.
Because he had that TV show there for a while, so we need to have him on here because you could see what he was doing. We need to get him on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I want to know if that story's true. That tale.
What about the lion? Was he have a lion or a tiger?
Well, there's that. There's a million of them. But when the player challenged him in the weight room,
took him down,
and Barwis came up for the kid, came up from behind him. Barwis just turned, took him down, had him pinned down.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of went
face down into the floor.
Okay, not messing with this dude.
Yeah, Barwis would be good.
He might be. You know what? We haven't had many. He might be a 2-shower, 2-episode dude. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. All right, we got to get that on the list. Good suggestion.
Yeah.
Run out of summer here.
I know. Well, we might have.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't even say it. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, I know what you're going to say.
We may have a really long off season.
That's a good point. Don't say that.
What do you want me to say? I mean, it's kind of like that weird uncle that comes to the family get together. Right?
What does that mean?
Well, the weird uncle comes and everyone says, Uncle Burl's here. And they go, hey, Uncle Burl's here. And everyone, and they kind of like, hey, Uncle Burl, come here. Let me get you something to drink. And they walk him away from everybody else. And they try to take someone takes it on themselves. They keep Uncle Burl away because they know something's going to, they just don't want any situation. That's kind of the same thing we're doing here with this upcoming football season. Like everyone knows Uncle Burl's in the room. Uncle Burl is in the room, and no one's saying this is getting real. This is getting real. No one wants to say it.
I think we've been saying that, have we not? You mean about not playing? It's getting real that you might not be able to play.
Oh,
that's what you're talking about.
It's getting real.
Sure, it is. I think that's well documented. Isn't it?
I think we've always said, "Hey, we'll see what happens. Ultimately, the virus is going to control this." But it's getting real now. It's June 29 that we're recording. They've always said July 1. They wanted to use July 1, right, as a date of where we're going to go with this thing. Uncle Burl, the guy that was holding Uncle Burl underneath the tree, he's coming closer now toward the rest of the people.
He's got no chaperone. He's walking around freely right now.
Uncle Burl is just walking around going what's up?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. And I think the numbers, these big numbers that are popping as schools have gotten back together, that's the biggest indication of that.
Yeah. Here's what it is. Uncle Burl's name is really not Uncle Burl. Uncle Burl's real name is Mother Nature. And Mother Nature, guess what? From a sports standpoint, the greatest bet you could ever make, if you're a gambler, greatest bet, Mother Nature is undefeated all time. Undefeated all time. You want to bet it straight. You want to bet it with the numbers. You want to bet it on the slide. You want to do a prop bet. Mother Nature, all time, undefeated. And if anyone thinks they're going to make the call as to what's going to go on this coming college football season, Mother Nature goes, yeah, that's good. You guys can do what you want to do. That's fine. Undefeated all time. It'll ultimately decide. Or she will ultimately decide. That's what it's going to come down to. Now, we can do things to improve the chances. We can do a lot of things that improve the chances. But ultimately, that's going to come down to that. Mother Nature will give you a slide if you play with her. If you play the game with her, she'll give you a benefit of the doubt.
Well, I don't think that's where we are right now.
No. Saw a study this weekend that in Hong Kong, a little bit less than 8 million people, closely, densely populated, had 6 COVID deaths. 6 COVID deaths. 97% mask usage. 97% mask usage. 6 deaths. Mother Nature goes, okay. I get it. Playing by the rules. Don't play by the rules. Ultimately, undefeated all time.
Well, you can see the numbers going back up as you're getting ready to let football teams begin getting in closer quarters. So what do you think the numbers do when that happens?
Yeah.
That's coming here in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're right in that's what kept being, okay, you're not going to make a decision in April. You're not going to make a decision in May. We're going to keep pushing this back, get more data, see what's going on, see how it's reacting. It's July 1st this week.
Mm-hmm.
Practice begins here in a couple weeks to get that 6-week period in. So I think you're going to know now here by August 1st, people are going to have to start making decisions.
You coming along with me at all on this spring season?
I'm not there yet, but I think what I will say is what we've said before. I don't know how college athletics, not just college football, sustains itself financially if there's no season, if there's no 2020 season, whether that happens in 2020 or January, February, March of 2021. If they have to skip a season, what does this thing look like from a financial standpoint? I don't know how schools can exist.
Yep, I think those conversations need to be made. Maybe they are in the deepest, darkest bowels of conversation among the people that are into this, but at this point, it does not paint a very positive picture as to what's going to happen. 3 Guys Before the Game, episode number 214 with the King Man. Brian King has been brought to us by Burdett Camping Center, the only warranty forever RV dealer in all of West Virginia. Visit them at burdettcamping.com. And take a look at that 2020 Van Lee Beacon by Tiffin, model 42 RDB, 5th wheel. It is absolutely off the chart with a super 3 Guys special. Visit them, burdettcamping.com, or visit, located in Winfield. That'll do it for us. Special thank you to our producer, Daniel Woods. Daniel, a solid move by him, updating on the fly the picture of Brian King.
Extremely well done.
Yeah.
Very responsive. He's actually must be listening to the show for once. Right? I mean, because he adjusted on the fly there.
Probably not on that Match.com or anything like that.
No.
He's probably paying attention.
Those young millennials on his phone the whole time. I don't know if he's paying attention.
Yeah.
He was on it today. Good job.
I'm worried about his neck because his head's always down like that. I'm worried, like he needs Brian King's, those towel exercises that King did.
Towel exercises.
You need to pull that towel back.
That's a great old
King
school
had that
reference.
big neck. All right, we're out. See you again down the road next week. 3 Guys Before the Game. Take care.